friends, how's it going? It's Shani today here. Welcome back to a new COD video, but today's COD video is something a little bit different and something that I never actually thought I would get around to doing, but hey, we found ourselves in that situation and let's get straight into it. Recently, I uploaded a screenshot of a custom paint job that I had designed for my PPSH, and it got a lot more attention than one, I was expecting it to, and two, that I'm used to getting on Twitter. So as you can see, it is a kind of like rainbow watercolor textured style, and then as well as with that same tweet that I tweeted out, I also tweeted out my machine pistol with the same kind of look and feel. And I had so many people saying, wow, that's amazing, wow, that looks cool, how did you get the rainbow effect right? I'm trying and I'm not getting it right. How do you use the editor? I have no idea what I'm doing. And I've even had people sliding into my DMs being like, Shani, can I get you to please make a skin for me? Please, I'd love it so much. So I kind of decided, you know what, since everyone loved the kind of look and feel that I did for my PPSH, it's it's much easier than you actually think it is. And I decided, let's do a walkthrough. I had already done a PPSH and I didn't want to redo a PPSH, so I decided I'm going to use the MP40, the WW2 version, because it is one of the guns that, like the PPSH, you can kind of change your design all the way to the very end. Some of the other rifles and some of the SMGs kind of cut it off awkwardly halfway through the wood, and you're just like, but why though? So I started off with the plain white background, and then just because I like texturing, I decided to use this kind of funky patterning. I do scale it a little bit, so I would have actually, looking back at it now, I would have actually scaled this a little bit bigger so that I had more layers to do colors with, because you only have 64 layers to work with, and I think I used about half of mine working out this patterning. So all I did for the patterning, like you would have seen, and unfortunately the designs don't mirror from side to side, guys, so what you do on the one side, you need to remember what you've done so you can repeat it and copy it on the other. But what I did was I took that patterning, I took it one shade up so it's just off white, and it turns out being this cool gray color, and then I just patterned it. So you'll notice as I copy through here now, I didn't change any of the scaling, size, or orientation. The gun naturally warps the texture and the pattern itself, so as you can see, it kind of ends up being really skew and much bigger towards the very end. But I really like the fact that it's textured. That is something that I've always been as a designer. I don't like flat designs, and even though the WW2 does have the patterning on it, I really liked adding that extra, like, very authentic, like almost eclectic kind of look. So for the colors, and this is obviously the main part that everyone is here for, you can use this kind of spray paint / graffiti style. You go one up and one to the left, or you can go from the other side of the spectrum as well. I just started with pink because, hey, pink's my favorite color. I changed the opacity. I'd play around between like a 37 and a 42. There's some differences in and amongst some of them, but essentially you scale it. Because it's watercolor, it doesn't need to be perfect, and you can have those dots of white in between, but then all you're going to be doing now is you're going to be placing the splotches everywhere. So moving over one by one, the further you progress, the darker you, or the further you work down the color spectrum. So I was just scaling, I was placing. I actually go back, what I really like about the editor, even though it has its flaws and it's very like stock standard, very basic kind of editing, I like that you can go back and you can edit your layers, make them bigger, kind of change the rotation and the orientation a bit. But then you'll see now we kind of just breeze through this and we rush through it, and we're just going to kind of work our way through the color spectrum. And once I reach the end of the color spectrum, instead of like being, okay, well, where am I going now? I just go one up and make it a little bit lighter with opacity. So it's a little bit darker than the existing layer of the same color, but you also get a kind of nice contrast where your gun carries on going with this color spectrum, rather than being like, okay, am I just going to repeat? You could if you want to, but I like the idea that we're using slightly darker hues and darker shades. So once again, I just kind of worked my way through and then repeated once again once I reached the end of the color spectrum. Went a little bit darker again, also played around with opacity. See, we're all the way down at like 27% now, 21%. So yeah, in hindsight, I would have added a little bit more blue to the end, because you'll see when we look at this gun in the firing range, the bottom like left hand corner ends up looking very light, which I've covered perfectly here in the editor. But yeah, here's once again I'm going over some layers just to make sure. I had a little bit too much white there, so you just go over each layer, make sure that you're happy with its positioning and happy with the amount of color that it is bringing to the table. And then I just went over my texture as well to make sure that all of the texture patterning was fine underneath. And that is the left-hand side of the gun done. This entire paint job, I want to say from start to finish, took me half an hour. But I had already done the texture before. I had already done it. I think my PPSH took me an hour to like figure out what I was doing. So the unfortunate part is because it doesn't mirror, you need to recreate what you've done on the left-hand side on the right-hand side. Thankfully, they don't need to be identical because you don't see both sides at the exact same time. So you can't be like, oh, but that looks different. So instead, you could go the long route exactly the same way as we did the other time and take the patterning, change its scale at the same. But what I did was I just copied it from the one side to the other. But unfortunately, because they don't mirror, it pastes on this side. So you do need to bring it all the way around this side and just change some orientation. But all of the scaling and stuff is already done for you. So you end up having the same patterning. Once again, I do stress that I would have probably made this patterning, in hindsight, if I had to go redo this, I would have made the pattern a lot bigger so that I had more layers to worry about the color with. And I could have kind of packed the rainbow a lot tighter and made the rainbow spectrum maybe repeat maybe 3 or 4 times rather than just the twice or 3 times that I have it repeating. That's just simply because the patterning, and you only also got 64 layers to work with. So I decided on the right-hand side of the gun that I was kind of going to make the bottom parts of the gun a lot bigger. So I spread the color out a lot more in comparison to the left so that I can pack it tighter once we get to the top. Oh, well, when I say to the top, when we're moving over to the right-hand side now of the gun, closer towards where the ammo is, or to the magazine. I don't know my gun terminology, guys. I'm a terrible person, but I mean, it wasn't taught to me in biology, so hey. So there we go. Those are both sides, and considering that it's still the same patterning, they still look identical, but same difference. The top of the gun was probably the most difficult part. First of all, I started off not knowing how far the actual custom paint job extends on the M4 WW2, so I just kind of exited and saved just to see how far it went. I actually thought it went all the way to the end of the gun like it does on the PPSH, but it didn't. And when I saw that it lined up like that, I was like, okay, cool. I've started the green over there, and that kind of lines up with where the top of the custom paint job will start. So I wanted the green to carry on from the top. The texturing is also, I would have probably left this out, but once I kind of committed, I was like, you know what, I'm going to do this. You can barely see what you're doing. I don't even know if you can tell what I'm doing. I may zoom in on the video file like itself to see, but you can you'll see in this specific segment of the time lapse, I am checking the left and the right all the time to check the top of the wrapping around. So there the pattern is way too far up and I needed to move it slightly more down. What I do like about the M4, the WW2, is the fact that it's got that metal strip along the top. So I kind of could mirror it both from like paste on the one side, copy over to the other, paste on the one side, copy over to the other, and just make sure it was reaching the bottom end of the gun. But like I said, if you're going to leave the texture out and just use the color, then go ahead. You're probably going to save yourself a lot of frustration, because towards the end of this, especially all the way to the top, considering that you get that shine and that kind of like glint off of the gun and the lighting in this editor itself, it's really annoying because you can eventually not see what you're doing. I also have a struggle with some of the lighter colors in the watercolor itself later on, but it is what it is. I'm still super stoked with how the texturing turned out. I kind of just wanted to have a look before I started coloring. I just wanted to make sure, because you can't really see the texturing here in the paint job viewer itself. I'm pretty sure, yeah, I take it into the firing range just to check. I only went up to the first partitioning. I didn't go further because, first of all, you can't see further than that, and secondly, you can't really see that far down the barrel. You can't really see that far down the gun once you're in game or whatever, so it's more just kind of the stuff closer to the player. Then I started once again with the colors, remembering that I'm starting from like the greeny bluey area rather than the pink like I had started on the bottom halves of the gun. So with this, you'll notice I do one of two things. I either scale it up so that it covers both sides of the gun, or I do one side differently to the other, considering that I had different compactness on either side of the watercolor. I wanted the sides to still align with the colors on the side of the handles. So yeah, that is exactly what I started doing here. This took a little bit while longer than I expected it to. I should have also, probably looking back at it now, made the opacity slightly darker, but hey, hindsight is 20/20, right? But yeah, I just kind of went through here, and what's nice is because it didn't take as many layers, I could fill a lot more layers with color and kind of like layer it and get it exactly the way I wanted it to. So that's basically how I did the gun. I have a lot more ideas. I definitely want to do one of each kind of gun in the watercolor, so let me know. I have uploaded these to the gallery as well. I know you can't download them yet, but I have uploaded them. The likes of you, the chances of you finding them I know are few and far between and pretty slim, but I have uploaded them somewhere. My PSN is the shiny_ZA, so I don't know, if you want to go like them, go drop a like for them. But yeah, lots of forward and back motions here, making sure that I was getting the designs right in accordance to the design at the bottom, because apparently I make my life a living hell. But yeah, I had so much fun, and like I said, this took me half an hour in comparison to the PPSH, which took me a full hour to do, because I was still figuring out exactly what I wanted to do. And there we go. I think I was done here, or I add some yellow right towards the very end, because the front of the gun ended up being very white. Even though you can't see what you're doing, you can barely see what you're doing, I more go off right at the very end of the gun, and because of the lighting, I usually go off when you select a layer and it gives that yellow-blue highlight. I was going off of that. I couldn't even see what I was doing while I was placing. I was kind of going off where those smudges would highlight. And yeah, I'm super happy with how the gun turned out. I think I take it into the firing range now for a bit of a closer look, but I'm super stoked with how it turned out. I also like the fact that I now have a machine pistol and a PPSH. Like I said, we'll probably be doing more. American subscribers and American viewers, don't jump on me with the spelling of my watercolor. This is how we spell it in South Africa, and how the UK will spell it as well. It's the British spelling, so I do add the U to my watercolor. But yeah, so there's my PPSH, and then my machine pistol, and then the other pink one. This is the first, the woven. This is the first paint job that I did, and if you want to see a tutorial on that, please let me know. I'll 100% show you one. So I'm super stoked with how this gun turned out. I'm also really happy because of the detailing on the do-re-mi itself. It just adds that nice added texture, because I really, as you can tell, like, I really like the idea of the textures. You could have removed the patterning, but I really like the patterning underneath the watercolor itself. So yeah, if you guys want to see me do more paint job tutorials, then let me know. I have so many cool ideas now that I've kind of gotten stuck and proper addicted to the custom paint jobs and to the paint job editor. I definitely think I'm going to be doing one of each gun type in the watercolor, just because that's kind of my vibe now, because I have so many more ideas. Let me know if you would like to see more, and if you have any ideas that you would like to see me try. I'm totally up to making more videos if you guys are interested. So yeah, if you guys did enjoy the video, please make sure to leave a like, subscribe if you are new around here. Remember that we're all human differently, and I'll see you guys again soon. Cheers!